and welcome to Inside View. I'm your host, Sid Marsh, and with me in the studio today is Warren Alford. He's the spokesperson for Caltrans District 10. Welcome, Warren.
Thank you.
Now, first off, tell us what District 10 is.
Well, so Caltrans District 10 covers most of the central part of California. We have 8 counties that have 3,000, almost 500 lane miles.
But the big thing is you have Calaveras County.
Yeah, we have Calaveras. We also have Amador and Alpine, which kind of affects the folks who live in this area. And then we have Tuolumne, Mariposa, and some of the valley counties as well.
Okay, well, let's get into some of the projects that's going to be happening this summer and people are going to run into. And let's hear about, now, number one was the Big Trees wall that they're putting up.
Yep.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, so Big Trees Park, which is up on Highway 4 above Arnold.
Right.
We are building a retaining wall. It's a project that's been going on. We're now in our 3rd construction season, which is longer than we expected. Fortunately, this year, most of the big work has been done, so I think the traffic impacts to people driving through the area are going to be pretty minimal. But essentially, it's a project that we've done to protect water quality for Big Tree Creek. And
an ecology kind of thing.
I mean, an ecology thing, and ultimately we're getting the water that's running off the road to be more efficient and to not deliver sediment into Big Tree Creek. So it's going to be good for Big Trees Park and ultimately good for folks driving up and down the highway.
And that should be done by the fall.
Yeah, our expectation it'll be done by the fall. All the major work is done. There's a little bit more repaving that needs to happen. The striping, we need to finish the retaining wall that's there. When people drive through, you can see it's a different kind of retaining wall. It's not just a guardrail. It's going to look really pretty and complement Big Trees Park. And you know, we know recreation and tourism is so important to Calaveras County. I think this is a project that folks will be really proud of.
Well, now further up the road is the pass, and everybody always wants to know, when's the pass opening? So when's the pass opening?
Well, we've gotten a lot of calls on that, our goal every year is to open the passes by Memorial Day weekend if possible. We start clearing them usually the first week in April. And unless we run into significant road damage or other issues that could keep us from reaching that goal, Memorial Day weekend is what we shoot for, earlier if possible. Now this year it was a big winter. Once we got up into the higher elevations, our crews have really hit some deep snow drifts. So it's going a little bit slower than we would like it to, but we're still hoping we're going to meet that goal.
Now, is Highway 4, Ebbets Pass, is that the only pass that District 10 is, or do you have 88 and 108? I mean,
yeah, we actually do 4 of the Sierra passes. So we have 88, which is Carson Pass, Highway 4, which is Ebbets Pass, Highway 108, which is Sonora Pass, and then also 89, which is Monitor Pass. Our District 9, which is over in the kind of Mono, Inyo counties areas, they do the other side of Tioga Pass, and of course, the Park Service manages Tioga Pass in Yosemite National Park.
Well, what are some more projects in Calaveras specifically that Caltrans is going to be doing?
Well, the big one that folks are probably starting to see signs and are going to be interested in is a rumble strip project. And
it's also Highway 4.
It's also Highway 4, and we have some on Highway 26 as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so McCollum Hill over to actually all the way to State Route 88 in Amador County. And rumble strips are really key for safety on these rural roads because they help avoid the head-on collisions. So with that center line rumble strip, lets drivers know, hey, you're straying out of your lane, wake up, get back in your space. We also are putting edgeline rumble strips where we've got enough of a shoulder that we can still have bicycles safely on the road. And that's a change that we've made from when we started doing projects. As you probably recognize on Highway 49, there are areas where we've got edgeline rumble strips where there really isn't much of a shoulder for bicyclists to ride. And we got a lot of feedback from the bicycling community that that's created a situation for them that is uncomfortable and unsafe. And so we've made that adjustment where we don't have enough shoulder. We generally don't put the edgeline rumble strips in unless there's a real safety reason for it.
So now, how long are these projects going to go, the rumble strip project?
Yeah, that project's scheduled to last about 60 days, so it'll be done by the end of this summer construction season. We're expecting generally 10-minute delays. Every so often there'll be a longer delay if there's equipment being delivered or something else that's going on, but it should be about a 10-minute delay, and the project will be moving up the hill on Highway 4 and then moving over to Highway 26 a little bit later in the summer.
Go on with more projects.
Well, let's see. We also have a project in McCollum Hill that most of the viewers in this part of the county may not necessarily run into, but we're going to install a four-way stop sign on Highway 49 at the intersection of Highway 26. It's an area where we've had a lot of comments and concerns from local citizens not being able to make that turn safely. There's a grammar school that's just up the road on Highway 26. And so our traffic safety folks took a look at that intersection and determined, yeah, we actually have a real opportunity to enhance safety there. And so we're doing a project that is almost an interim project, putting in a stop sign because it's the fastest, easiest, kind of cheapest thing we can do.
I was going to say, why not a signal? But
yeah, no, it's when we recognize that there's a safety issue, we generally try to do the thing that we can do the fastest first, and then we start the planning process for a bigger project. So that process will be underway. We're hoping that by the end of next month, we'll have that sign installed, and folks in McCollum Hill will have a safer intersection.
So people are going to have to know to stop at Highway 49. There's going to be a stop sign.
There's going to be a stop sign there. Exactly.
People usually just blow right through.
Yeah, so we'll put up some temporary signs to alert people that it's coming, and hopefully they won't be too surprised when they see it.
Well, now, what are some projects that you might be proud of as Caltrans that you've been doing or whatever?
Well, there's a lot that we're proud of. We have a big area. A lot of the work that we do that folks see on a day-to-day basis is the work of our maintenance crews. So whether it's plowing snow on Highway 4 and Highway 88 or fixing potholes, these guys do everything from picking up trash to dealing with animals that have been hit by vehicles. Right now, we're doing a lot of work just to reestablish the shoulders. They call it pulling shoulder backing. So during the winter, the edges get eroded out. And so we've got to re-smooth those things so that people have an area when their tire goes off the road that they can have a clear recovery and not get pulled off the side. So it's a real important safety feature, but that's the work our maintenance crews are doing every day. And I'm just really proud of the work they do. This past winter, as you know, was just a massive winter.
Lots of water. Lots
of water, lots of snow. We had one particular storm that generally we get a lot of rain on snow events. This year we just had a lot of snow at low elevations. We had one storm in particular where we had rain on snow. And up in the Big Meadow area, if you know where Miko Drive is on Highway 4, the highway actually flooded because water overflowed the creek that runs through that area. And then because of the tall snow banks, it backed up into the road and it had no way to get out of the road. So the road was closed. One of our maintenance members figured out, hey, we can take the snow blower in and just start blowing the water and almost hydraulic mining the water out of the road. And we were able to get the road back open in a few hours, which, just again, the work they do every day is really something that we're proud of.
Well, now I've noticed also, especially on Highway 4, a lot of the bridges are very narrow. Are there plans of expanding the bridges or?
Yeah, there are a number of sites. So one that is actually related to another project that will be coming up in a few years is the bridge over Cherokee Creek, which is to the west of Angels Camp, heading towards Copperopolis. So, once you get through the first set of turns, there's a fairly narrow bridge. That's the Cherokee Creek Bridge. That one will be replaced probably within the next 3 years. And related to that is the Wagon Trail project.
Well, that's been on the books for a long time. When are they going to straighten out Highway 4?
Yeah, and some people are excited to see it. Some people are a little bit less enthusiastic about it. It's been in the planning phases for a long time. Calaveras County, the Calaveras Council of Governments, is actually the lead agency. Caltrans is providing oversight. but we're not the lead of that project. But the county is working on it. We're a partner with them. The funding and the studies and the planning is all underway right now. And if everything goes as planned, we could see construction on that within the next 3 years, maybe 4 years.
And they're actually going to straighten it out between Angels and Copper? Is that how it's going to?
Yeah. The alternative that they picked is kind of the least intrusive, for lack of a better term. So it'll follow the existing road more closely than some of the other alternatives that have been proposed. So it's going to maintain a real similar route.
Are they going to widen it?
There will be wider shoulders, yeah.
No, but I mean, will it become two lanes?
No, it'll be
one lane both ways.
Yeah, it'll be a one-lane road. It'll be one lane in each direction.
Right.
And but a lot of those really difficult corners and the areas where they're just really narrow shoulders, those are going to be made to kind of the current standard.
Now, one project I've noticed where I live in Murphy's, and there's down by the school, they're going to put in a turn lane. What's the story on that? I just saw a survey team out there.
Yeah. So Murphy's has a couple of things going on. We have a planning process, which was the Murphy's mobility plan. And so the community had a lot of input in discussions about what kinds of changes would they like to see, since, Main Street is, in some ways Highway 4 is an alternative Main Street in Murphy's. And so enhancing pedestrian access is something that we've heard loud and clear is important to people. But we also are planning a turning pocket in Murphy's. Mm-hmm. So those areas where you can kind of turn left either way.
Right, and then traffic can keep going and not get backed up.
Exactly, right. And so as you know, when there are big events in Murphy's, whether it's Irish Days or any concert going on out at Ironstone Vineyards, a lot of times you'll have people stopping at that intersection to make a left-hand turn, and there have been events where we've had traffic backed all the way up to Vallecito. And so this should really help alleviate a lot of kind of the congestion, but it's also going to make it a lot safer, so that when you're trying to turn off the highway, you actually have kind of a safe lane to be in while traffic continues to flow.
Now, Calaveras is a very rural county, and we only have 2 or 3 stoplights?
Something like that, yeah.
Are there plans, on the books for other stoplights or anything, or?
Yeah, Angels Camp right now is in the process of, they've also gone through both, in fact, Calaveras County, to their credit, have been very proactive in working to get planning grants that involve a lot of community collaboration. And so Murphy's, Angels Camp, and San Andreas have all created these plans where they've identified intersections that should have improvements, whether it's a signal. There are a few roundabouts that are being proposed.
A lot of people don't like roundabouts.
Yeah.
You get a lot of pro and con on that. Where are the roundabouts being planned?
Well, in the San Andreas plan, what was identified in that kind of community process was a couple of different intersections for roundabouts. I believe one is the intersection just out here in San Andreas where Pool Station Road is, mm-hmm. and the other is actually on the south end of town as you come into San Andreas, right up where the old airport road was, if you remember where that mm-hmm. area is. And that will serve kind of as a gateway to the community on both ends of town. For people who don't like roundabouts, I really suggest take a ride over to Plymouth one weekend.
Okay.
We had a project there. It was the first roundabout on Highway 49, and it really has been something that the community's proud of. They've got an ore cart in the middle of it and really beautiful landscaping, and it serves as kind of a gateway to their community. And the benefit of roundabouts from my perspective, is that they have a tendency to be safer than signals, and they're also more efficient because essentially traffic flows. You don't have the
stop.
hard stop. And especially for people who are trying to walk across busy intersections, traffic's only going in one direction, so it's safer for pedestrians too. So I'm a big fan of roundabouts, but we run through the process and determine what's going to be the most efficient, the safest, and the most cost-effective before we decide, is it going to be a signal or is it going to be a roundabout?
Well, you know, speaking of roundabouts, there's Highway 4 and Blagan Road. There's always been a big problem there. Have they ever thought about doing a roundabout there?
Yeah, you know, that intersection is obviously one of those odd intersections where the Blagan Road comes in at kind of a skewed angle. And I know there have been some discussions about it. We don't have any active plan on the books right now. But it's definitely an area that, you know, that's one of those places where sometimes the county can step up and say, hey, this is a priority project for us, and then we have an opportunity to partner. Right now, I don't think we've got an active plan for improving that intersection in the near term, but obviously we'll be looking at those kinds of things. We're looking at all the different intersections all the time, usually with an eye towards safety and then efficiency and that kind of thing.
Everything's safety.
Safety is our number one priority, and in fact, we just had our Workers' Memorial recently, and we do that every year to honor fallen Caltrans workers. And since 1921, 189 Caltrans crew members have actually been killed while doing their jobs.
Working.
So that's almost 2 people a year, and that's not acceptable. So we do prioritize safety, and we need the public's help to help us with that. So California actually revised a law that is the Move Over Law to incorporate highway workers. And so now the law is, when you see the flashing lights or when you see the cone zone, you are required to slow down. And if you can move over, you know, especially if you're on a 2-lane road with two lanes in the same direction, you're required to move over if you can do it safely. And that's to help protect our workers, but ultimately it's also to help make sure that everybody gets home safe. And I've been working in this job now for about 3 years, and it's really been an eye-opening experience for me to see how many collisions occur on our roads, and most of them are avoidable because almost all the time it involves people driving too fast or being distracted in some way. And nobody sets out in the morning thinking, hey, today's the day I'm not going to make it home. So we need people to just recognize that when you're operating your vehicle, it's a responsibility to try to be as safe as you possibly can be.
Don't eat, don't text, don't do all that.
All of that stuff, you know, putting on the makeup, reading the latest novel, get a book on tape, and enjoy your drive. But definitely we ask you to be cognizant of when you're in a construction zone in particular, to watch out for our workers.
Now, are there any projects that are way out there that you're thinking about that the public might be interested in?
Well, I think Wagon Trail is one of the big ones, and we talked about that a little bit already.
When do you think that would be happening?
The earliest would be about 2022, which sounds like way far in the future, but the reality is that's you know, only 3 years from now. So again, Calaveras County, the Council of Governments, they're in the lead on that. We're the partner. We're all working cooperatively to get the funding, and if everything goes as planned, then we may see construction that summer. We have another project that is coming up, which is the Highway 26 Slope Stabilization Project. And for folks who live out in the north part of the county, they know they were impacted significantly this winter when the major storm that happened on Valentine's Day, what we're calling the Valentine's Day deluge, just absolutely destroyed Highway 26. We had culverts that got overwhelmed and erosion and mudslides that occurred. The road was closed for almost 2 months, which affected people that were trying to commute. It affected all the kids who were trying to get to the grammar school over in that area. And so we've got a project coming along. We were fortunate because one day after the storm, we had a contractor on scene starting to work to recover that area. And we were able to get some work done that we have planned in the future while that closure was in place. So we kind of got ahead of the game a little bit. But we've got a project coming up that it will try to help capture those areas that are kind of problematic right now, so that when that next big storm comes, we'll be ready with bigger culverts and a lot more slope stabilization already in place. So I think that's going to be an important one for folks, especially up in that north part of the county.
Now, if somebody does see something wrong with the highway or whatever, what should they do? Who do they contact?
Yeah, so the best thing to do, we've got an online portal. If people have a computer, they can just go on 24/7. They can actually submit what we call a customer service request. So you can just Google Caltrans and customer service request, and you can report whether it's a pothole or a dead animal or a fence that needs to be fixed or litter, anything that our crews deal with. And we respond very quickly. They also can call our office, and I'm happy to give that number, or maybe you can put it on the screen at some point. But you can call us, you can put it on the customer service request form, and then we even follow up with you to let you know when the issue has been addressed.
Have you ever had some strange requests? I mean,
yeah, there's as many things as you can possibly imagine. Just recently, we had a boat that was dumped on the side of Highway 49 in Mariposa County, about 500 feet above the road. I'm just in the middle of nowhere.
No idea how it got up.
No idea how it got there. You know, we'll have animals wandering in the road, horses, cows, sheep, you name it. We've had things reported to us. But ultimately, we want to be responsive. We want to take care of issues that are out there. It helps us when the public sees something. If they can point it out, we like to be able to respond to that.
Now, Highway 4 one time was the Ebbets Pass Scenic Byway. Does Caltrans have any plans to improve the scenic quality of?
Well, so it's designated. It's one of only 7 national scenic byways in California. It's something for our district that we're really proud of. There are a couple of projects coming up that are going to affect the scenic byway. The first one is a project to widen Cadillac Corner. And we've had big trucks that have gotten stuck at that location. And
is the Cadillac still at Cadillac Corner?
The Cadillac's still there. The big tree fell over and squished more of it, so it's even harder to see now.
But they're going to widen that corner.
They're going to widen that corner now. Highway 108, Inyo County and Tuolumne County, I believe it was Inyo County, passed an ordinance that prohibited big trucks. On Highway 4, big trucks are just not advised. They're not prohibited.
Why is that? I've always wondered that. Why don't they just make it illegal for a big truck to go over Highway 4?
Well,
because everybody keeps trying and they don't make it.
Yeah, it would require a local ordinance.
That's more of a legislator kind of thing. I mean,
yeah, ultimately the county that's in charge, in this case it'd be Alpine County, would have to create a local ordinance. That's kind of outside of the area that I work in. But from what I understand, that's the process. And right now, with Highway 4 having trucks just not advised, essentially they can drive over. But if they get in trouble, then it's really their responsibility. So when you've got a big truck that has to get towed out of there, they're responsible because they were advised this isn't an appropriate route. Yeah,
of course, Google Maps says it's a good route and you should take it, and people don't stop and think that, hey, maybe they're wrong.
Yeah, and unless an ordinance were passed, in the meantime, we have to provide a safe and efficient transportation system, and so right now the plan is to widen that corner. We also have a project that will increase and change the bridge railings on those bridges on Highway 4, because there's a new standard for a little bit higher rail that's a little safer for vehicles. So
you're just raising the rail, you're not widening the bridge.
It'll raise the rail, and on a couple of the bridges, it'll actually widen the bridges by a couple of feet. The actual structure underneath the bridge, it will not change, so it's just kind of cantilevering out a little bit further. The exception is Markleyville, the bridge in Markleyville, which is obviously way over in Alpine County, but a lot of our folks here in Calaveras County use that route to get to recreation or just to go to Reno or what have you.
Caltrans will be working in Alpine?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, and so that bridge is actually now going to be replaced because they determined that it was built in 1927 and it's essentially reached the end of its life. When they tried to figure out how to cantilever out, they determined that it wasn't feasible, and so now they've decided that they're going to replace that bridge. So that's a project I think folks will be interested in. And then we also have a project which is a whole new program that's we call an anchor project, where we blend funding from a lot of different programs, because sometimes people are frustrated because we'll do culverts or we'll do paving, and now we're trying to do a lot of those things at the same time. So we've got a project, it's still a few years out, but it's in the planning phases to repave Highway 4. And while we're at it, replace most of the signs, because a lot of the signs out there are kind of older and there's not a lot of consistency, and to repair culverts and to do other work that we normally wouldn't be able to do in one project.
Now, Caltrans is responsible for the signage also, is that?
Yeah, we do the signage on the roadway. There are instances where you've got signs that are installed, using a permit or some other mechanism. But for the most part, the signs that are in the right-of-way are state signs that we manage and we maintain.
So if you need a sign, you need to go to Caltrans. I mean, if there's some problem or whatever, go to Caltrans.
Exactly. Yeah, and if it's a directional sign or a traffic safety sign, those are the ones we generally deal with. If it's a private business,
no.
Generally that's outside of the right-of-way unless there's some kind of special use or in that would be done as an encroachment.
Well, that's interesting because I notice sometimes signs that say a bed and breakfast this way or whatever. Isn't that more commercial? Aren't you kind of promoting that business? And that's state money. I don't know. I've always thought about that.
Yeah.
That's a Caltrans thing?
We do have a commercial sign program. Generally speaking, it's to make sure that we're directing people to where they're trying to get to, and that helps everybody when you don't have people on the road that are confused and not sure where they're going to get to. What you generally don't see, unless it's part of our formal advertising program, which is more on the freeways. So like freeway exits, sometimes you'll see individual business signs on a Caltrans sign.
Do they pay for that?
They pay for that.
Oh, okay.
But if it's kind of a generic, there's a hotel that way, but we're not actually putting the name of the hotel, that can be a directional sign that we maintain.
So if somebody on Highway 4 or 49 wants their business on a sign, they can contact Caltrans and pay for it and all that?
Again, on up here, we don't really have a lot of those commercial signs. Those are generally when you're on a freeway and you're looking for that gas station or that restaurant. We do have an advertising program that is for that. We don't have a lot of those kinds of things up here in the foothills, to my knowledge.
So why don't you give us the phone number again? I mean, you can actually say the numbers or whatever, that people can contact you or whoever with a problem.
Yeah, you bet. So the direct line for me is 209-948-3849. And that actually rings at my desk. We have a generic line as well, but ultimately we want people to talk directly to us, because I know a lot of these routes, and half the time it'll be somebody I actually know that is on the other end. And it's helpful because, generally speaking, it makes it easier to recognize what their issue is and try to figure out how to resolve it.
Warren, thank you very much for being here today. We've learned a lot.
I appreciate the opportunity.
Well, I'm Sid Marsh. This is Inside View, and we'll see you the next time.